Hello and welcome to BCM325 Future Cultures. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about your digital artifacts and the first learning assessment for 2023, which is the pitch presentation. We'll also be talking about decarbonisation and how to frame your DA for the subject. Okay, the pitch. As part of your digital artifact for the subject, you will be producing a pitch presentation video and a supporting blog post. This is due on Friday, week 3. The pitch presentation is an online video of 2 minutes. This is a hard maximum and a hard minimum. Part of the requirement of the task is 2 minutes. It's surprising how many students go and submit a 2 minutes and 5 seconds video, or a 2 minutes and a half video, or a 1 minute 50 video. Part of the challenge for this is 2 minutes exactly. I will allow for 1 or 2 seconds because sometimes YouTube does put 1 or 2 extra seconds in the upload. The video is embedded in a post that is reblogged to the subject blog. And the blog post is contextual information. The blog post should be a maximum of 500 words where you can put your supporting information. The blog post should not be a repeat of the video content. The video content should focus on the ideas of your DA, and you can add the details and the background research and your timeline, all the things that we're going to talk about in this video, into the blog post. So you've got your 2-minute video and then your 500-word blog post submitted together. You'll be able to reblog that to the subject blog, and we'll talk about how to do that in the seminars. And the pitch requirements. Okay, here we go. So you have a specific focus for the DA in this subject. This is where you will be using digital media and communication technologies to research and communicate practical ways to cut greenhouse gas emissions. You're going to be contributing to direct action that ensures we hold the global average temperature to 2 degrees. And in fact, 1.5 is better. So let's talk about 1.5. So we're really talking about net zero carbon emissions by 2050, but 2030 is much better. We've already talked about the DA methodology. We've talked about the process for doing the DA in the last video, but I just want to keep you in mind that this is a cyclical process: researching, analyzing, acting, and reporting. It's not a linear process. You go through these steps each week as you're doing your DA. Okay. So what we want to see, particularly at the credit distinction and particularly the high distinction level for the subject, is that you are reflecting on subject materials. You are drawing comparisons, you're thinking about ideas and concepts, and you're applying them to your DA. We also want to see you engaging in background research. This is both from academic sources, news and media sources, but also social media. We want to see a sample of these sources in your DA, particularly in the pitch, in the blog post. Now, you might just be doing a data gathering exercise and a research gathering exercise and saying, this may help me in the future. We don't expect you at this stage in week 3 to be entirely across the research that you're going to be doing as part of this DA. A key element of the pitch, and particularly the blog post, but you can mention this in the video, and that's probably a good idea, is your production timeline. Your pitch has to clearly explain what you are going to be doing each week for your DA. This is not something that you can leave to the last minute. In your pitch, you will be assessed on how well you can manage your time. and how you structure your production timeline. I'll give an example of that in a minute. So for the assessment process, because the nature of the pitch is time sensitive, we will try and turn around our feedback on the pitch very, very quickly. And that's why it's due on the Friday of week 3. There is a learning assessment cover page at the top of the Moodle page. You'll need to download that. There you'll be able to put the URL to your blog post. And before you hit submit in that Moodle Dropbox, please review the assessment criteria and the grading rubric before submitting your post. Make sure you have the cover page. Do not forget that. And indeed, you won't be able to get feedback unless you submit the cover page. And on the cover page, you will be required to indicate what level of feedback you want. If you're just after a mark, you can do that. If you're after the mark and the grading rubric, you can indicate that. And if you'd like detailed written feedback, you can request that via the assessment cover page. Okay, so please be familiar with the assessment criteria, particularly if you're looking for a credit distinction and so on. But also if you're just looking to pass, right? You need to understand what it is that you have to meet the minimum requirements for. So we'll be looking at the sophistication of the approach. Now the idea of sophistication at 300 level means you're working across multiple platforms. You have a clear and approachable idea for your DA that seems feasible. The second criteria there is the contextual depth, right, which means the evidence of background research that you're building, the refinement of your ideas as they are expressed in the video and the accompanying blog post. And looking obviously for the coherence of expression and the professional presentation. But we're not assessing how well you can edit or the sound quality of your mobile phone or anything like that. And the last one is the degree of conformity, which just means you've got all the elements in place. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the decarbonisation focus and how to think about it for your pitch. The aim is to limit global temperature increases to 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050. And that means net zero emissions, preferably by 2030, but definitely by 2050. I really like the idea from Saul Griffith's book, The Big Switch, that there are 100 million small machines and 1 million big machines in Australia that require fossil fuels to power them. And if we replace those 1 million or 1,000,001 machines with renewable energy powered machines, we will be well on our way to decarbonisation. Right? Now, this means that we have to get off the roads almost 19 million passenger and light commercial vehicles. That's crucial. They need to be electric vehicles, and we need to be able to power those electric vehicles. But we're also talking about motorcycles. We're talking about gas kitchen appliances and gas hot water heaters. They are absolutely fundamental to be gotten rid of and to replace with new electric-powered systems. But also things like lawnmowers, chainsaws, whippersnippers, leaf blowers, barbecues. This is the goal for what Saul Griffith calls the big switch. Now, this brings with it a whole range of challenges, particularly for people from different backgrounds, but it also means a huge opportunity for new jobs, new businesses, new entrepreneurial thinking, and of course, marketing opportunities. So that's really exciting, and that's what you should be focusing on. So how do we get to net zero by 2050? Another great book that will assist in this thinking is Speed and Scale by John Doerr. His plan to reach net zero by 2050 includes electrifying transportation, decarbonising the grid, so moving to 100% renewable energies, removing greenhouse gas emissions, including methane and carbon, from the production and distribution of food, to set up new nature protections and expand our attempts there to protect the future of the environment, to clean up industries, to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from all industries. And this is not just like mining and, agriculture. This is sport industries. The manufacturing of materials, technologies, and goods that go into any industry. It could be a fan industry or it could be education. There is an enormous amount that we can do by reducing greenhouse gas emissions in places that you wouldn't normally think. And that means removing carbon from the environment. So, what are some of the potential topics for integrating into your established or new DAs? This is a long list of ideas or technologies or innovations that you could plug into your existing DA or start a new DA, right? You could be advocating for rooftop solar in your local environment, your local area, your local council. You could be looking at grazing ecology and how to remove greenhouse gases and methane. You could be looking at degrowth strategies. An enormous list there of ideas that you can plug into an existing DA or a new DA. And as I said, I'm very happy to chat about your pitch ideas on Discord at any time. Okay, so maybe you are stuck and you are unsure of how to proceed. This is a digital artifact that you can participate in. We are going to be using the hashtag UOWNetZero. So UOW Net Zero is a collaborative DA that you can choose how to contribute to. I just ask that you message me on Discord to say that you're going to be using this hashtag as part of your DA, and that way we can collaborate and communicate. The aim of this DA is to ensure that the University of Wollongong is a net zero organisation. And there are multiple vectors to ensure that this is a reality as soon as possible. One, we can ensure that all campus energy is locally produced by solar or sourced from renewable energy companies. I have lots of thoughts about how we can add new solar panels to the UOW campuses. Two, there are sufficient charging stations for electric vehicles. Currently, there are 1 or 2 on campus, but we need dozens. And this is going to be a huge step forward. 3, and this is that there are subsidies and salary packages for all staff that include options for purchasing electric vehicles. 4, all fossil fuel machines on campus are replaced with electric alternatives. Now, these are just the first 4 ideas that I thought of that we can use to build the UOW Net Zero collaborative DA together. So I'm looking forward to working with you, and you'll do your own thing as part of your own DA connected to this project. I'm looking forward to hearing your ideas. So how to go about pitching UOW Net Zero? Well, the first thing is to explain the initial concept. So let's talk about local solar power. There is a new car park that has been paved, asphalted at UOW, and it doesn't have an overhead roof. We could petition the university to build a rooftop over that car park and install new solar cells. Maybe we even suggest that one of the playing fields be sacrificed in order to install a solar farm. Those solar cells could then charge batteries to power the university on days and evenings when there are people still around and power is still needed. Or they could be then used to charge student and staff electric vehicles. The DA could be your mediation and communication of the investigation of how much this would cost. So as you investigate the cost, as you interact with the university interface and get feedback from various people who are part of the decision-making process, you could talk about that as part of your media for your DA. What are the official hoops that need to be jumped through? How do we get this approved? Who has to be convinced? Who is in control of the money, the building, the infrastructure? These things need to be investigated and communicated. So, in your pitch, once you have ideated and explained the idea and the initial concept, then you address the methodology. So, as we said, you would engage in research. Here, you would look at how the university is organized. What are UOW policy when it comes to things like infrastructure or power or funding? Who has the authority? What is the organizational structure? What is the costs? What are examples? Are there other universities around the world who are making initiatives like this? What are the best arguments that we can put forward? Then the analysis. After you've engaged with the institution, you've built an audience, you've talked to other students about this, how does the institution respond? What are the barriers? Why do they exist? And how can they be overcome? Okay, now this is probably one of the most important elements, and that is the production timeline. So I mentioned this earlier. So how would this look like for this DA? This is just a rough sketch, and in the pitch, it really is a rough sketch. You are committing to doing something every week, but we understand that things might change as you go through. You'll be reflecting back on your production timeline in your final report. Week 3, let's start with researching UOW policy, solar costs, car parks with solar installation. We can get a little bit of that into our pitch video. Week 4, let's create some prototype images and models. Let's start to share some content that we've generated via ChatGPT or Midjourney. Let's start to share that on social media. Let's contact the UOW media team to let them know about the idea. Week 5, let's create a short 2-minute video on solar-powered car parks and charging stations that we are building from our background research that we've already done. Week 6, we'll do a 300-word blog post with an audio reading, so a little audio cast of the blog post on talking about how to overcome institutional barriers and resistance to these kinds of innovations. We can draw on the subject lectures and further materials to expand our ideas. Week 7, we can put extra effort into engaging in social media posts, commenting, liking other people's posts, signal boosting, and trying to draw attention to our posts. We can probably do that every week, but you might pick a 1 week to really focus on and actually reflect, and maybe that's part of it as well. Maybe you're working on your reporting, right, and your analysis, and you're thinking about how effective that strategy is. Week 8, let's contact local solar companies to discuss the plan. Perhaps do an interview with them that we could put on social media or YouTube. Week 9, once we've got lots of content out there, we can contact local broadcast and legacy media and say this is something that we're trying to do. Week 10, we'll finish up with generating more social media. Week 11, we'll build a 2-minute video about the experience of working on the DA. Week 12, we'll finalize and follow up with any UOW representatives that we've had on their social media pages and so on. And in week 13, we'll present our final report. That is just an example. It's not a recipe for your DA, but it is pretty close. All right, just a reminder that the pitch video is a 2-minute maximum and a 2-minute minimum. And the content of the pitch should be separate to the content. The content of the video should be separate or supported by the content of the blog post, which is 500 words. Final thoughts. Let's avoid doomerism. I know it's very easy when you start to think about net zero and 2050. It's easy to fall into the trap of doomerism and thinking that we can't make a difference, but the reality is that we can. And there are plenty of social movements that demonstrate that we can make a difference. And that's why I want to focus on UOW Net Zero, because it's local to me. And this could easily be your local council, your local school that you went to. This could be a local organization or industry. The point is to think positively and to build actual engaged direct action rather than trying to lead by fear. We're not into fear. We're trying to make an argument here that decarbonisation benefits everyone through new jobs, new employment, saving money, and producing a better future. It's not about scaring people. Focus on today's tech. Don't be overly concerned. There are lots of technologies that are available off the shelf today that can achieve our goals. Focus on tomorrow's policies, writing and coming up with new actions and new social movements that can help us achieve net zero and total decarbonisation. And remember, the future is now.